few occasions before, I follow the lectionary, and that's the prescribed reading plan that a lot of Protestant churches follow. And I'm not quite sick of it yet, because I'm still a new minister, so that's generally what I go with. But it means it takes you in a route that you wouldn't always go. Because to me, it's a little funny to go from Matthew to John, to Matthew to John again. But here we are, again, in the wonderful world of John. And it is kind of like the wonderful world of Oz, because it's a little topsy-turvy and doesn't always seem so straightforward. But eventually you do end up there. So here we are in John, and we've got John the Baptist, not to be confused with John the Gospel writer, or John the beloved disciple, or John, who's later mentioned as Simon's father. There's a lot of Johns happening here. But we've got John the Baptist. He says, that guy is the Lamb of God. And then, right after that, he says, I don't know him. All right, John, good work. And then he calls him the Son of God. Okay, John, I might be with you. And then he calls him the chosen one of God. And then he goes back to the Lamb of God. So John really can't decide. He's kind of like sports announcers when they talk about Babe Ruth. It's a Sultan of SWAT, the great Bambino, Babe Ruth. It's like that, where he's just so great that one title, one name doesn't quite cover it. And as if that's not enough, when John's disciples finally approach Jesus, they don't use any of those. They call him Rabbi. And later, when those disciples introduce Jesus to Simon, they call him Messiah, or the Christ. And then to add to all this name confusion, because John is so good at this stuff, Jesus renames Simon as Peter. Topsy-turvy. It's kind of like this week in my mind, where you're not totally sure if you're going anywhere, but you want to. And eventually you do get out, and it does become clear, and you realize the outside world is still there. But it does make me wonder, because I'm very efficient, so I've been accused of being blunt. Why couldn't John just say what he meant? Why couldn't he just be direct and say, Jesus, these are my disciples. I think they should follow you now. I've been getting them ready. All right, disciples, this is Jesus. He's the guy I've been telling you about. You should follow him. Wouldn't that be so much easier? So much more concise? Absolutely, but it would have zero pizzazz and no sense of awe or wonder. And it would be a whole lot like reading Jane Austen, in which the characters actually express how they feel, making the entire story unnecessary. If Jane Austen actually wrote like that, I might read more of her stuff. But she doesn't. And fans of Jane Austen don't read for her efficiency. They read for emotional tension and its eventual release. And as readers of the Gospel of John, if we wanted something more chronological and straightforward, we've got 3 other Gospels for that. We don't go to John for that. We go to John to seek that connection to a great divine mystery through Jesus Christ, who claims himself as the light of the world, the vine, the good shepherd, and all of those other wonderful phrases. So even though this passage is totally inefficient and not straightforward, there are things we can get from it, because there's a pattern to it. Even though it's a little bit choppy, we can pull out this pattern and get something from it. Because it's about invitation and curiosity and faith. And the pattern we see is notice, share, follow. John notices Jesus, shares it with his disciples, and the disciples follow. The disciples notice that Jesus is pretty cool, shares him with Simon, and they all follow. And that pattern continues after this passage to when more disciples are called. And it all begins with this really interesting invitation. Come and see. It really kind of piques our curiosity. Because again, Jesus could say, I'd like you to come follow me. We're going to travel all over the countryside, be a little bit hungry and persecuted most of the time, and eventually end up in Jerusalem where I'll die. I don't think they would have had as many followers if Jesus had put it that way. And if I said that to the kids, they certainly wouldn't have followed me around in a circle. Well, Byron might have. But he seems willing to follow anybody. But the thing about invitation is it's always a choice. You can't force someone to accept an invitation. I mean, there is a bit of an awkward obligation feeling, especially if it's like costs money to print these invitations. But you can't actually force someone to accept an invitation. There is always choice. There is always the option to accept or to refuse or to say, I can't make it, but I wish you the best. And it's that option that we need to keep choosing. Because we're continually invited. I didn't just say come and see once. That would not have gotten the children all the way around in a loop. I would have lost them in the bathrooms. They'd be eating the cookies already. But there is a continual invitation and a continual acceptance of that invitation because of curiosity. Come and see. It's kind of like the carnival where you don't know what to expect. You know it's going to be something awesome in the sense of awe-inspiring, and you know it's going to be entertaining. But it's really your curiosity that's piqued. It's that makes you accept. It's that really gets your feet moving. So, whether you accept an invitation or not, it doesn't mean you know what to expect. I mean, you have a general idea. Like if you go to a carnival, you could expect it to smell a little bit like burnt sugar and fried onions. And if you go to a wedding, you could probably expect some kind of wedding ceremony, probably some food and maybe some dancing. But you really don't know. It's always open-ended. Sometimes you can go to a wedding and be seated with the most awkward people you've ever met and have a terrible time. Or you could go there and meet your new best friend or the love of your life and have your life changed forever that way. Or maybe the food is so bad and so unfilling that you end up going to a drive-through McDonald's at the end of the night. And that triggers a whole new adventure. But it's all because you accepted that invitation. You went to see. You came and saw. An invitation is an adventure waiting to happen that could potentially change everything. And Jesus is inviting us. It's Jesus who's saying, come and see. Jesus is the invitation itself, the invitation to God and wonder. Come and see. And it's by accepting this invitation, this open-ended, sure, let's see where we go, that will bring us closer to God and ourselves. I have no idea where that invitation will lead. And you might be thinking, well, you should. We pay you to know this stuff. But none of us know. We have no idea. Not as individuals, not as a congregation. But by faith, we will go and see. We will see where Jesus takes us. We will see where we end up and what God has in store for us. So I invite you to be more like our kids, more like our Sunday school kids. Not only do I think you should sit at the front like they do, but I think you should follow your curiosity. Have faith that there's something really cool waiting at the end. Have faith that the one you're following is trustworthy and will eventually make a point. And that point might be enlightenment. Have the faith of a child. Have the curiosity of an artist. And follow Jesus. Go and see.